Hello, ninth grade students. We're going to try something new today, probably with this unit. I'm going to pre-record my lessons in PowerPoints. You're going to view them on your own time, preferably in class, and take your own notes. I'm not going to have any note sheets printed out for you for this unit. It's going to be up to you to start to figure out how to take notes, writing what's important down from the PowerPoints. So hopefully we're not going to make you read the textbook this time. I'm going to break it down for you, cover the main topics, but you are going to have to take your own notes and learn how to organize those. That's something that I can be coming around and helping you with during class time, kind of helping you organize notes and that skill. But there's going to be no note sheet that I provide for you. So, no further ado, let's get started on infectious diseases. Okay, so what are infectious diseases? Well, the definition that you should probably know is they're diseases caused by microorganisms living in or on humans, animals, and plants. So infectious diseases are contagious diseases. They must be transmitted from one living thing to another. For instance, our flu, one person gets it. That's why a lot of people maybe living in the same household or at school, outbreaks of the flu seem to happen quite a bit because that is passing from one person to another in several different ways, and we'll talk about transmission in a later lesson, but it is contagious, going from one person to another. This may require a middleman, meaning it might be mosquitoes taking it from one person to another. It might be contaminated food and water, which is probably more prevalent. If something's not cleaned, cooked properly, those microorganisms, which are these tiny little organisms, they cannot be seen with the naked eye. You need a microscope to see them. They will be prevalent or around in the food, in the water, if it's not cleaned or sanitized correctly. Now, there's a difference between infectious diseases, or sometimes called communicable diseases, and, well, sorry, that should have a non-communicable diseases as well, should have a C in there. But non-communicable diseases are not caused by pathogens. So these little microorganisms that are there, living on or in plants and animals and humans, these diseases are not there. Okay, that's not transmitted from one person to another. It's not contagious. It's a disease that's brought on by many other factors, maybe lifestyle factors, genetics, and such. So infectious diseases, the first topic we're going to cover, and those are contagious, transmitted from one person to another, caused by microorganisms or pathogens. Again, just a picture to kind of differentiate infectious or communicable diseases versus non-communicable. Communicable being those contagious, caused by a microorganism. So if you see over here the causes, you got bacteria, virus, or such for the infectious diseases. Some of the listed different types are pneumonia, influenza, which is your flu, strep throat's a very common one. So those are your infectious diseases. Non-infectious diseases or non-communicable are going to be things like diabetes, lung cancer, heart disease. So these are diseases, but they're not contagious. They're not going to be transmitted from one person to another. They're things caused by genetics, your diet, your lifestyle. Do you have other risk factors that you bring on yourself, like smoking tobacco, vaping? Those types of things that you do in your lifestyle are just genetically predisposed to. But that's the difference. Infectious, pass from one person to another. Non-communicable, they're not going to pass. So again, microorganisms or pathogens. Microorganisms are all just tiny organisms, all right, too small to see with the naked eye. Now, some microorganisms are called pathogens. These are ones that cause diseases, all right. We're going to get into the different types that cause diseases. So all pathogens are microorganisms. Not all microorganisms are pathogens. All right, but pathogens are the ones that cause diseases, and that root word came from a Greek word that means to cause suffering. All right, so they learned very early on these small microorganisms, these pathogens, cause problems. They make us not feel well, all right? But basically, the pathogens, what they're going to do is enter the body in some way, shape, or form, and it's going to vary from disease to disease, how they transmit, how they get into the body. But then they're going to grow, and then they're going to reproduce. They're trying to duplicate themselves inside your body. And they produce toxins, and these toxins that cause you to feel the symptoms and the signs of the illness. All right, when you start to not feel well, when you start to feel nauseous or sweating, body aches, headaches, those types of things, those are from the toxins from the disease or many others that might be more severe. Or those signs and symptoms that not feeling well could be brought on by your own immune system, and that's your immune system trying to work. The immune system grows in the virus or in your cells to try to defeat that virus or pathogen of any type. And basically, so your own immune system could cause you to have that fever, headache, muscle aches, because it's growing in your cells to try to defeat the pathogen. Now, we've kind of mentioned signs and symptoms here briefly, but there is a difference. They go hand in hand, but you need to know the difference between what are signs, what are symptoms, and it can be very difficult and tricky. Signs are evidence of a disease that can be outwardly observed or measured. Right? A doctor should be able to see that it's present, or they should be able to track it and measure it with a number, a scale of some sort. So those are very finite and what is called objective evidence. It's based on observation. It's based on measurement. All right. So these are going to be things like a fever. All right. You can measure your fever. Okay. The body's temperature. Is it above like 100 degrees? Okay. That can be measured. Abnormal pulse. Yeah. They're going to check your heart rate. Making sure, is that elevated? Is it too low? But there's a healthy range, and then if it gets out of that, they can measure that. Changes in color of skin, that's going to be something that they can observe. All right, if you're turning very pale or red or even grayish blue, and is your breathing rate altered? All right, to figure out how much oxygen you're taking in. So all of that can be measured, and that is objective. All right, there's no opinion on that. It's just a finite number, or it can be seen. All right, so those are signs. Symptoms are different. Okay, this is evidence of a disease that's sensed by a sick person. It's felt by the sick person. All right, so things such as pain, it's hurt. Okay, you got that muscle aches, you get soreness, stiffness, shortness of breath. Okay, so they can measure your rate of breathing. But if you feel like you just can't catch your breath, that's something that they can't measure. But you feel it, you sense it. Itching, all right, they may be able to measure and determine or observe if you have a rash. But if there's no viewable skin condition and you just have that itchiness in you or on you, that's something that is not a sign, it's a symptom. You feel it, it's based on your feeling and your opinion about it. Headaches as well. There's really no way to just measure a headache, how severe it is, where in the head is that headache happening. So these are subjective. They're all based on how you feel. All right, so doctors look for signs and you feel symptoms. All right, so there's a difference that you're going to have to know. Very difficult, but just know that signs and symptoms are different. Hopefully you jotted down examples of each one so you will know. All right, moving on here. We're going to start talking about the predictable course that infections take. All right, so there's a standard, most, not all, but most will kind of follow these three stages, if you will, of what's going to happen. All right, now the reason you should know these stages and recognize this pattern of most diseases is so, first of all, you know what to expect. All right. If you see someone who's had the flu, all right, you kind of know, well, that's the signs and symptoms they have. You know, it's my mom or dad, and they live in the same house. If I get to get it, or if I'm going to get it, I'm probably going to have a lot of those signs and symptoms. So I know how to better take care of myself. If it's heart disease, all right, it's something more severe. you then know kind of where you're progressing, where you're at, what you need to do to take care of yourself. You know when you're most likely to spread the disease, okay? So these are contagious. You're going to pass from one to another person. So when do you need to most take action to avoid other people who may have that contagious disease, and when it's okay to kind of drop some of those barriers and interact with them. So whether it's you have it and you don't want to spread it on to someone, or they have it and you don't want to contract it, all right, you don't want to become infected. So knowing the stages of when, okay, they're in this stage, they're contagious now. I need to really make sure I'm washing my hands. I'm not coming in contact with things that they are. Or it could be that I'm sick and don't want to pass that on. So the 3 stages we're going to talk about: first, incubation period. Second stage is clinical stage, and third is the convalescent stage. So we're going to break those down real quick. All right, the first is incubation period. Well, the first thing that the pathogen has to do is enter the body. So however it enters the body, once it's in there, the next thing pathogen is going to do is begin to grow and reproduce. All right, it's trying to duplicate itself inside your body to take over and live and survive itself. So this incubation period is the time between the pathogen entering the body and the first appearance of symptoms. All right, so it's in you, it's growing, it's duplicating, but you haven't noticed any symptoms yet. You haven't even felt sick yet. So that incubation period is it's starting to grow inside of your body. Okay, in this time period, there might be mild to no symptoms, all right, because, yeah, you haven't really noticed anything yet, or the symptoms, you haven't acknowledged them yet. You may, depending on the disease, you may be contagious now, all right. The flu, for instance, below is the incubation period is 2 days, all right. So after you contract it, 2 days is when you're going to start feeling more symptoms. Well, after day 1, okay, adult is contagious. So they're contagious before they even know that they're sick, probably. And this is going to vary from disease to disease again, okay? They're also going to be contagious up to after a week of being sick, all right? So they may have the signs and symptoms for a week, and even though maybe they're starting to go away a little bit, they may still be contagious, all right? And for children, even longer, up to 10 days. So really knowing that kids miss a lot of school, and probably should miss a lot of school if they're sick, to make sure they're not going to come back and infect anyone else. Clinical stage is the second stage of the infection. Signs and symptoms of the characteristic and disease arise. Okay, there's a lot more. This is like the disease is hitting you now with full force. The pathogen is producing toxins in the immune system to reach its peak. You're feeling full effects of it, which are going to cause signs of illness. All right, you are sick. You know you're sick now. For the flu, this is going to be 3 to 5 days that you just probably feel awful. Okay, some of the symptoms though may last for a while. Okay, for the flu, again, the coughing, the fatigue, the tiredness, it may linger for up to 2 weeks afterwards. All right, you might not be contagious at this time anymore, but those symptoms are going to stick around. All right, in the convalescent stage, the final stage, the immune system is starting to destroy the pathogen. All right, it's taking back over, it's winning the fight, you're starting to feel better. Usually by the time you're in this stage, you're no longer contagious, and then the signs and symptoms again are starting to fade. So below is a profile picture of the strep throat and the 3 phases of it. You'll notice days 1 through 3 after exposure is the incubation. So it could be 3 days up to before you feel any effects, but you've got strep throat. Okay, you're going to be contagious in this time period as well. Signs and symptoms last 4 to 5 days if not treated. So if you don't go to the doctor right away, it may be a while, including sore throat, fever, swollen lymph nodes. If you've ever had it, you know how horrible it is. And then convalescent stage is no longer contagious. You're over that. And this is going to be, again, unless you beat it yourself after almost that full week, or after 1 day of taking antibiotics. So being on antibiotics for a day, okay, 24 hours, a full day, you no longer become contagious and not going to pass this on to anyone else. All right, so there's the first video. Check out for lesson 1. Hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully this style of learning is going to work. Thanks.